diving. Hope comes and stops us in our tracks. Bravely we prove in our striving, trudging together each day. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Raw Recovery with Dion Miller. Today, I have on a special guest, Josh from Thornton. Now, I met Josh through some Zoom meetings, and a good friend of mine, Sarah Hornbuckle, whom I work with. And he and I just hit it off real well. We haven't been able to talk too much, so I'm really looking forward to getting to know you here, Josh. But welcome to the show. Welcome to Raw Recovery.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you taking your time. Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for you and kind of let you get started on telling your story. Thank you again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And so I'm going to start off, my name is Joshua and I'm an alcoholic and an
Hello,
addict.
Josh.
And I'm fucking excited to be here to be clean and sober. It is a
Awesome.
beautiful day to be clean and sober. And I'll tell you why this program does work if you work it. And here's how. If I'm honest, open-minded, and willing. And that's how simple this program is. But how complicated I made it has been absolutely ridiculous.
Yep.
So I'm very lucky to be here today. And so I'm just going to start off by saying, today I do have a little over 5 years of sobriety. Wow. It is 5 years and 8 months. My sobriety date is August 7th, 2014. So that's a little over 2,000 days right now, which is absolutely amazing, because I'll jump into the, a little bit of backstory and everything. But, for me to be able to say that today, that number right there is just, it's something to really be proud of.
It is. And you should be proud of it, man. You should care. Yeah. Hell yeah. Great fucking job.
Yeah. Thank you. So, I like to start off with a little bit of about going back in my background, where it all kind of, began.
Okay.
When I was, when things started really changing in my life, I was about 9 years old. So I grew up a pastor's kid. My parents were pastors.
Okay.
And so, my father was, preaching, love, patience, tolerance, kindness, forgiveness at the pulpit. And my father was dealing with his own demons at that time. And my parents had separated because of what my father chose to do.
Okay.
And so that was really difficult on me being the oldest of three.
Okay.
And being, watching my mom go through that and just, I'm not going to go into details. I'm not here to, air out, my father's dirty laundry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was dark times for me. The way that I was disciplined, I didn't believe that, I should have been disciplined that way, but, anybody at that time would have felt the same way.
Yeah.
They did put in laws that probably would have stopped some of the things, from happening as they did. But, let's just say it was not easy for me growing up.
Okay.
So because of that situation, I, being a pastor's kid, I know how to party in a way. Because it was nature to, want to rebel, when it came to anything.
Certainly.
And so, I started hanging out around the wrong crowd. My friends, they started dealing with, like smoking pot and drinking at a very young age. And I told them no for a while.
Okay.
Eventually, at, age 11,
okay,
when I finally said yes, and the first time I drank a 40 ounce of Mad Dog, and I hit a 3-foot bong at that time.
Wow.
And so, I just, I double dosed at that time, and I was absolutely blitzed, and I got sick from it. But, just the euphoric high that I got from it was just absolutely mind blowing.
Yep.
And I'm not here to glorify it at all.
Nope.
Um, I just want to make a point of it. But
Hmm.
at that time, it was just like it was something that gave me release for the first time. That I was like, all right, this is
Yeah.
it. This is going to be an answer that I
Hmm.
had. So I started, I dabbled with it. I kind of really got into it. And then by the age of 13, I wanted something more.
Okay.
So I actually took heroin because I had a friend's dad that sold the stuff.
Okay.
Um, and he showed me how to use it. And that was something that was life changing for me at that moment. And I didn't realize it.
Okay.
Um, because, I was instantly hooked. It was that finally that euphoric high that I was looking for. That
Hmm.
that, was
Yeah.
that instant numb, that instant gratification that I was
Yep.
constantly looking for.
And yep, you hit it right
And
on it.
with the drinking on top of it, it was just like the life was kind of spiraling out of control. So during high school, I was going to a lot of parties and that kind of thing. I was doing a lot of stupid things. I was like jumping off of roofs and the swimming
Hmm.
pools. I was always trying to show off because, I love the limelight, the spotlight, whatever you
Yep.
want to call it. So I was always the one that was doing the stupid things because I was the kid, with the skateboard and, always, I bit pavement, so many times in my life. I was used to that kind of thing. So I was able to kind of show off a little more
Yeah,
than
you
others.
well, your dad toughened you up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Right. So, but there was one thing that I was dealing with at that time that a lot of people didn't know about, and that was depression.
Okay.
And I really didn't know how to deal with it. So, because of the drug use, 2 years later, actually, after starting using heroin, I did try to take my life at
Okay.
the age of 16.
All right.
Um, you know, through a noose, um, and the rope broke on me. And
Wow.
it was very humiliating because, I was just like, because I was at that point of where I was so finished with life in general,
Okay.
I'm like, this was my only solution, and I failed at that.
And you felt like you were failing at everything.
Exactly. So I was just completely lost with life, and I didn't know what to do. So,
Yeah.
I, I wanted to join the 27 club if I was going to make it that long.
Yep.
Um, and so I really didn't pay much attention, when it came to school. I kind of really half-assed it and, kind of got through by the skin of my teeth. I was selling dope, and that kind of
Hmm.
thing, messing around and so on and so forth. And that got me by. And then I tried to drop out of high school my first senior year because I was trying to get away from the drugs and everything. Um, and I was going to get my GED, but that didn't happen. I kind of got down on myself and I was like,
Hmm.
I stepped away a little bit for the drugs, but the drinking was always there. That
Yeah.
was the okay thing to do because
Yeah.
society was okay with it the entire time.
Hmm. Hmm.
And nobody thought that I had a real bad issue with it because I was able to keep doing it. And so I finally got my high school diploma because I decided that, I wanted to be better. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Because I had, my mom was a very wonderful person and she showed me a lot of good things in life, and so that was
Sure.
like an inspiration to try to be a better person. And then so I wanted to get the diploma because I first of all was uneducated,
Yep.
and for me to step in a workforce uneducated, it was difficult to climb a ladder and that kind of thing. But if I had a diploma, I was able to get better jobs and that kind of thing.
Yep.
So that's why I chose to do that.
Okay.
um, but I started living life. Drinking got super bad. I was blacking out a lot of the time. It was waking up in random places,
Hmm.
rooftops, people's cars, fields, I mean random beds, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
The more it kept getting. And because the fact I was of age at this time, I was able to go out and hit the bars and party and that kind of thing. So
Okay.
um, that was that lifestyle that I wanted to live. And 4th of July 2002 came around. I was involved in a car accident.
Okay.
Um, me and my buddy, we were drinking, and we were going to a party up in Longmont or something like that. I don't even really remember. I
Sure.
vaguely remember getting into the car, and that's all I remember. Next thing I know, I'm waking up in the hospital.
Yeah.
Um, and my buddy was he was DOA. Um,
Wow.
he to get graphic here,
Okay.
forewarning. He ripped open his diaphragm and pushed his intestines up into his lungs,
Oh my God.
and was actually revived at the hospital. And
Wow.
we were trying to pull a Yui on a dirt road somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and the lady hit us. She was going 75 miles an hour, hit us in the front corner panel.
Okay.
And so for the Fourth of July, I spent that year in the hospital,
Okay.
and I watched fireworks from that window.
Okay.
Following that year, shortly after that time, I was arrested with possession of cocaine,
Okay.
and that's when I received my felony charge. I had to do 2 years probation, community service, the works.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then 4th of July 2003 came along, and that's when I was sick for a week and I couldn't eat or drink anything. Nothing would stay in my system,
Okay.
and so I was like, I got to go to the doctor. 'Cause something's not right.
Yep.
And so then I go to my family doctor, and doctor takes a look at me, and he was like, I don't even have the tools to be able to figure out what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
He was like, I recommend going over to the university because of your situation right now. You don't really have the money or the income to be able to take care of you, but the university could be able to take care of you.
Okay.
So I went down to the University of Hospital, Colorado, and within a week, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma
Okay.
and vanishing bile duct syndrome.
Okay.
Vanishing bile duct syndrome is an extremely rare liver disease.
All right. Yeah, I was going to ask because I don't think a lot of people know what that one is.
Yeah, my liver was completely shutting down, and I was actually yellow as a Simpson.
Yep.
That's how jaundiced I was, and that's how
Mm-hmm.
severe everything was. And because of the severity, um, the doctors gave me 3 months to live.
Yeah. Now, real quick, because I gotta ask, was that a disease that kind of follows in the family, or is that done through the drinking and the drugging, or is it kind
So
of
it
both?
there's a mixture of stuff that happened,
Okay.
because basically so the vanishing bile duct syndrome, a lot of doctors don't know. That's why it's a syndrome.
Okay.
Actually, at the time, only 15 people had been diagnosed with it.
Wow.
And after the cancer bout, because I'm actually here sharing my story,
Yes.
so everybody knows I defeated it. I'm
Woo!
actually the only survivor of that.
Wow.
So it's
So
actually
you're a
huge,
fucking walking miracle,
a
dude.
walking, absolute walking miracle. I kid you not. And
Wow.
I
Cool.
thank my higher power, because it was my faith that was able to get me through that.
Yeah.
And it was such a dark time of my life, but everything was so going badly for me. This was finally my out, because I was dealing with the depression so badly.
Uh-huh.
I was like, finally, this is it. This is my way out. This
Yeah.
is my life. It's done. And my faith knew better. Well, I knew I could make it through if I believed.
Yep.
And then after I got past that 3-month mark, I tried to kill myself again.
Okay.
Um, because I was on any type of medication that I wanted,
Yeah.
and being the drug user that I was, I had like liquid morphine, and oxy and, you know,
Uh-huh.
anything that I asked for, it was given to me without
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
And so I took as much of it as I could.
Yeah.
And I did it at my church. So so that my mom would have somebody to comfort her
Yeah.
when they found me.
Yeah.
But I threw up the pills. My body wouldn't let me digest them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to take a hard look at my life and I was like, all right, okay, fine. What now then?
Yeah.
What the fuck next? You know, what am I supposed to do? 11 months of treatment of radiation. I actually got cool tattoos from it. And like one of the coolest stories that I got from my whole cancer thing, besides the fact that I did survive it, was that there was a mass that was wrapped around my pulmonary artery that was 3.5 inches by 4 inches, so about
Jesus,
the
dude.
size of your fist.
Yeah.
And the pulmonary artery, for those that don't know, are it's one of the main valves to your heart.
Yes.
Um, and the radiation shrunk down the mass enough to where they were able to go in. They wanted to biopsy it,
Okay.
and it was to a size that they were comfortable with it.
Okay.
Because the surgery with it was very dangerous because if the mass weighed too much, it could have collapsed my lungs and they
Yeah.
wouldn't have been able to wake me up in enough time to have my lungs, you know, pop back open.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those were the chances. But I looked at the doctor and I asked him, I was like, is this going to leave a scar? And he kind of laughs at me and he was like, why? And I was like, because chicks dig scars, bro.
Yeah.
And he just started cracking up laughing. And he was like, he was like, what are you getting at? I was like, you know, just imagine it, you know, a battle scar across your chest. He was like,
Yeah.
you know, I went to war, I fought cancer, and I defeated it. And here's, you know,
And
my
here's my
scar, bro.
scar. Yep.
You know what I mean? And so, you know, after he stopped laughing, he looks at me and he was like, yeah, usually a procedure like this, it's very small. You know, we make this very small insertion, so there's no scar. And I was like, oh man. So I was bummed out, right?
Yeah.
By the whole thing. And
Hey,
when I
hey,
went,
doc, here's $1,000. Could you make one? You know?
yeah, exactly. And when I was waking up from surgery, um, he was standing there next to me and he gave me a fist pump and everything. I was like, yeah. I was like, all right, we made it through surgery. And he was like, no. He was like, bro, I left you a scar.
Yeah.
I was like,
Nice.
oh, dude, you're awesome. You know, so it's a 1 inch scar. He didn't mutilate me or anything. You know, I
Yeah.
want to get that right. But you know, there's enough there to remind me of, you know, the
Yeah.
situation that had happened.
Yeah.
So um after, you know, that had happened to me in my life, I wasn't sure what to do. So I decided what every other human being does at, you know, 23 years old is get married.
Yeah.
You know, because like that's the next step in life, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Start a family.
So I was I was with a lady that was older than me. Um, and we were both well, I can't say for her, because you know, we don't speak about that.
Yep.
They got to make that decision on their own.
That's
But
right.
I was definitely, you know, still raging alcoholic at this time.
Okay.
Um, there was a lot of violence that happened. I never laid my hands on her, so I want to get that right.
Okay.
But there were a lot of holes in the wall, and you know,
Yeah.
police contact, and you
Sure.
know, that whole jazz. A lot of drunken nights, and I'm just talking about like stupid drunk, and you know, we
Mm-hmm.
didn't have money to pay for rent, so we're moving from one place to the next, you know, because we're spending all our money either gambling or, you know, drinking.
Okay.
And that was a, you know, an all day 24/7 type thing
Mm-hmm.
at this time. Um, and that lasted for about I was in that relationship for 9 years. And the judge actually signed the divorce papers a year on our anniversary.
Okay. Yeah, I
So
got
I thought that was,
divorced on my birthday. I get it.
yeah. So I thought it was kind of funny that, that had happened. But with this whole depression thing that, I never had treated, I wasn't going to therapy and all that
Uh-huh.
bullshit like
And
that I
it's
thought
still
at that
getting
time.
worse.
You know what I mean? So it was just
Yep.
building up at this time. And so then I go in the spiral downward and it's just getting dark, 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 dark. And I'm drinking like, a fish. And I'm swimming in, just nonstop alcohol. And the drug use is there. And, it's extreme moments. And um, it was real difficult. But I kept waking up the next day and I was just
Hmm.
like, well, I want to kill myself right now, so I'm gonna numb that away and let's just kind of get through the day as much as I possibly can and figure out what's gonna go on. It got to the point where I wasn't working and I was actually living in my sister's garage. And the depression was so bad that um, I was just throwing up like trash in the corner.
Okay.
Um, and like I'm living in there with a field mouse. I called him Nibbles
Uh,
because I could hear him at night, when he was trying to eat. I'm
yep.
not sleeping at night, because of drug use and alcohol and insomnia and everything else. And um, then they kind of finally had enough of me,
Mm-hmm.
um, to where, you know, I got kicked out and I found I was doing a lot of kind of couch surfing in a way. Then I had a friend that was going to let me stay with him. And there I ended up meeting, I got into a relationship with this girl that I worked with.
Okay.
And I was definitely still an extreme alcoholic, and she was able to keep up. And from there, it got real bad, to where, because we were fighting, and it was a lot of physical fist fights,
Yep.
where she would, she broke my nose like 3 different times. And, I bled all over the place. And,
Mm-hmm.
um, my buddy's trying to introduce me to AA at this time, um, because he got sober and he was letting me stay at his house just as long as I didn't drink at the house.
Okay.
I was hiding it from him, and I was coming back. We were both drunk. We'd
Yeah.
just get in a huge fight and, you know, wake up in the morning, pretend like none of it ever happened, and just repeat it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And this went on for a very long time until we finally got into this huge fight of where I finally left. And I'm down off of Wadsworth and Jewel.
Okay.
And for anybody that knows Colorado, Wadsworth and Jewel, I walked all the way up to Colfax and Wadsworth.
Okay.
And
That's a hike.
yeah, definitely. And then all of a sudden, I had this guy come out of nowhere, a guy that I knew, um, that I did some work with. We did some painting jobs and whatnot.
Okay.
Um, I knew who he was, and he's been in and out of jail doing this and that, so on and so forth. So I knew he was trouble. But he was like, come with me, and we'll find a place to live.
Yeah.
And so I went with him, and um, he pulled out a glass pipe and loaded it with crystal methamphetamine, passed it around,
Yep.
and I didn't even think twice about it. Um, and there, because my imagination is very extreme, because I am a lefty, just to let
Okay.
people know. So I'm, the only one in my right mind, unless you're a full lefty. Right. But, so imagination is definitely there, because we're kind of known to be, creative and that kind of stuff. But
Sure.
um, it's always been a passion to be imaginative of mine. Um, and I disappeared for, I don't know, 5 days, something like that. I don't even remember. I don't even know. But I do remember like it was yesterday, um, because that was the start of my journey.
Okay.
and I was in Aurora. I ended up in Aurora, and from I left in Mississippi area. Um, I left that house because we were. The paranoia got to the point of where I thought the police were after me,
Okay.
and that I was at a sting operation, and my
Ah,
buddy was trying to get me to buy more of it. And if I would have bought more of it, I would have been part of the whole sting operation. And I would have went to jail.
yeah.
So my brain shut off like that and was trying to avoid jail.
Yep.
And so I did what I thought I could, being twacked out of my brain. And I figured that if I just stayed on the sidewalk, the police would leave me alone. Because I'm in a public place, and just as long as I followed every detail of the law as
Yeah.
possible, cross when the guy says cross, and that kind of thing, I'd be able to
Yeah.
make my way back home. So from Aurora, I try to walk to Lakewood, and there's a lot of things that are going on. Like the news are there, like they're doing a whole news story about me walking.
Yeah.
The police are trying to get me. There's cars that are going around. They're taking these photographs, trying to get, where I'm actually at. And like paranoia to the utmost absolute extreme is
Yep.
there. I'm at university in Colorado, our university in Alameda, and I'm pulling up my shirt and pulling my pants down and screaming at the top of my lungs, saying that I don't have a gun on me, because at this point in time, the police think that I have a gun,
Yeah.
um, and I'm still walking. There was a burrito guy that was trying to get me to stop. There's people on bicycles that are trying to get me to stop,
Trying
and
to
I
help
wouldn't
you.
stop. Yeah, I just wouldn't stop. I was like, no, I got to get to my destination. So I'm walking, and I get, past downtown, and I was going to take Federal all of a sudden north, because I decided that I wanted to get up to Thornton, where my hood is at, where I grew up. And so I'm down there, and I was like, yeah, I could definitely do this. I already walked from Aurora. I was like,
Yeah.
what's another, I'm like, I'm all twacked out. And there's so many bad things that happened
Sure.
during that time. And I ended up making it to Thornton, and I turned away. Um, my first aunt, because at this point in time, Facebook already knows that I'm missing. My mom put out
Yeah.
a notification to the family, look out for me, because nobody's
Sure.
seen or heard from me.
Yeah.
And so my aunt drives by, and she saw me, and she tried to get me to eat, and I couldn't eat because I thought that it was chemically induced to, have me pass out, and they would
Yeah.
have me trapped, and I would go to
Yeah.
jail.
More paranoia.
Yep. And so I denied that, but I did take the water, because that was the first time that I had any type of liquid or anything that was in my system for the past, I don't week now. I don't even know how long that this journey has been going on, how many days it's been happening. But I, had definitely disappeared for a long time. Um, and so by the end of the journey, I ended up, because my uncle was a sheriff, and I decided to talk to him because he would be able to keep me out of jail. That was
Yeah.
my whole, idea
Okay.
behind it. And so I eventually talked to him. He brought me to the house and got me into the shower, changed, and I had to do something, because like I'm already coming down from this, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want, certain members of my family to see me like that, and especially my mom. And it ended up being to where he had to take me to the hospital because my feet were destroyed during this walk.
Okay.
Um, and so I had to have, medication, I had to have things, repaired and that kind of stuff. So go to the hospital, and, my paranoia is still there. There's like people that are in the room next to me that are telling me where the cocaine's at, that my mom, who is a straight edge person, put in my food to keep me from coming down from the high. And if you met my mom, you'd be
Yeah.
dying laughing at this moment right
Okay.
now. You know, so it's just like, and then I finally had a doctor come in and, you know, they're putting lotion and stuff on my feet. I mean, I had sores on my feet that, you know, were just absolutely huge and swollen, and asked me if I wanted help. And for the first time, I said yes.
Yeah.
Well, not really, because I tried AA a few times,
Okay.
you know, and I'd go to the room, get my 24-hour chip, and then I'd leave and I'd drink and I'd repeat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I did that for a little while. But you know, I was trying to take it serious, you know, because after this had happened, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" You know, I just walked from freaking Aurora to Denver to, you know, Thornton,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, I got to do something. So I went to rehab, started off in rehab in a wheelchair. Went from a wheelchair um, to walker to crutches to be able to walk on my own. The time that I spent there,
Yeah.
good old West Pines. You know, and you know, in there, you know, because they do meetings and that kind of thing, and you
Mm-hmm.
know, I was going through, you know, they gave me all the medication that I needed, you know, to be able to get through my withdrawals and stuff like that, you know,
Yep.
because the alcohol was really bad, you know, because like I was shaking and, you know, going through DTs and, you know, that
Yep.
kind of stuff. And so there's a lot of medication that they had to put me on to, you know, so my body wouldn't go into complete shock. And
Yeah. So it wouldn't shut down on you. Yep.
yeah, so there was a lot of, you know, in the beginning of that rehab, it was a lot of people watching me. There's very few family at this moment of my life that was there. That girl that was in that relationship with me showed up at rehab every single day.
Okay.
Um, Other family members did not, so she was kind of there for me at a moment that I needed. And
Cool.
so I decided to kind of go that route after rehab, which led me to homelessness
Okay.
because I didn't know where to go.
Yeah.
And after rehab came the drinking again.
Yep.
And I was even drinking on the N abuse that, you know, they gave me to stop me from drinking, which is
Yep.
not fun to do. And I do not recommend because it is
Nope.
poison.
Yeah.
It basically, it turns alcohol into poison
Yeah.
in your body. But, you know,
Yeah.
the amount of shit that I put into my body throughout the years, I didn't care. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I was just like, whatever, you know, this is what it is. And then my life completely changed again because I was absolutely completely plastered out of my brain. Got into a huge fight with this girl again. Got in my car, and right at I-70 and Federal,
Mm-hmm.
I tried to take the ramp that was going eastbound while I was traveling westbound,
Yeah.
meaning I was driving towards oncoming traffic
On the highway.
on the highway. I didn't make it all the way to the end of the on ramp because a truck stopped me, um, backed up my car like 3 different times. I think. I mean, this is what I remember from the situation. It's all, you know, splurts here and there. Um, but then finally, I got pulled out of my car by, I guess, the panhandler that was on
Okay.
the corner. I don't even know. Somebody pulled me out of out of my car
Yeah.
because I had plastic windows at this time because of anger issues.
Yeah.
And you know, it was cold. We live in Colorado, so you know, I had to have something up. So you know, plastic
Yeah.
was my window. So he ripped me through that, and you know, I went back to the Motel 6 that's right there behind Dino's, I think
Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I let the girlfriend know what had happened. She told me to go back. Maybe my car was still there, and I was like, "That's a great idea," you know. And I'm bloody. I'm covered in blood, you know, because like I got jacked up, you know,
Yeah.
from that, you know, and I got all scraped up from getting thrown out of my car, and you know, blood's, you know, just gushing down my knee and everything. I have no clue what's going on. I'm absolutely plastered. I don't even know, but I'm moving, and police were there. Denver police, good old Denver police. Um, they were there. Uh, I was in handcuffs immediately. They flew me down to Denver Scares because I refused everything,
Yeah.
according to them. And I'm not saying that I didn't, But, you know, I do remember that the police officer didn't put the seatbelt on me, and I was yelling at him while being drunk in the back of the cop car. Click it or ticket, officer. Click it or ticket.
Yeah, because I know, but look at you. You're not doing it right either.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
So, you know,
insanity, dude.
yeah, absolutely. And, you know, so then they end up drawing my blood. And, so, you know, I go to jail immediately. Um, and one surprising person was there, you know, once I finally got to see the judge, you know, to say what I was actually being charged with and so on and so forth, you know, what the next steps were.
Yeah.
Um, my father was actually in the courtroom, and it really surprised me, you know, because
Okay.
my father and I really haven't had a good relationship. You know, there's a lot of drunkenly calls, and
Sure.
we fought a lot. You know, we butt heads throughout this entire thing, you know, because once again, you know, he was dealing with his demons, and I didn't always agree with everything that was going on. Um, but so it was a real shock to see him.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, you know, so then somebody knew that, you know, I'm in jail, you know, because like, as far as I know, nobody knows where I'm at, you know what I mean? So they knew I was in jail. So I did that, and, you know, eventually standing in front of the judge, they let me out with a PR bond,
Okay.
uh,
Lucky.
which
Yeah.
I got lucky, absolutely lucky with that. Um, and when I stood in front of the judge, and, you know, he was giving me my complete sentence, you know, he was like, I see that, you know, you have a record with us. You know, this is not the first time that, you know, you've stood in front of a judge and had to do this type of thing. But I'm going to try to throw the book at you and try to save your life here, son.
Mm-hmm.
And after everything that I'd already been through in freaking life, you know, like this is the moment right now. And it was like, now, am I going to do something about it, or am I not?
Yeah.
Um, but I was in the beginning, AA was recommended to me, and because
Sure.
I knew about it, you know, that was something that I definitely wanted to do. But you know, from jail, I had to do, because it was 2 years of probation. I did 90 days of jail. I was from jail. I was shackled
Yep.
and brought immediately to probation, where they
Mm-hmm.
threw an ankle monitor on, where they gave me 2 hours. They gave me this big box and gave me 2 hours to get home.
Yep.
And I was homeless at that time, so I didn't have a place to go. My aunt was gracious enough to let me stay. You know, I finally got that one last chance, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because everybody else had, you know, I felt like had given up on me, and I'd given them a good reason too. Um, so I'm doing the first 30 days of my sobriety. I did it on my own.
Okay.
It was a dark room, Netflix in my ears, you know, because
Yeah.
I had access to the internet and that kind of thing. And I wasn't allowed to leave the house.
Yeah.
You know, I'm strapped down. I wasn't even supposed to go outside.
Yeah.
But, you know, the funny thing was, you know, my aunt was like, I'll cover for you. She was like, if your probation officer comes, you know, I'll tell him you're in the bathroom. If you're outside, you know, having a cigarette in the backyard, or, you know, whatever the
Yeah.
case may be, you know, because she's just trying to, you know, let me have some type of
Giving
normalcy.
you
You know?
some freedom. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So, you know, because she realized that, you know, because she saw a look in my eye that, you know, I was kind of hungry for something, but, you know,
Yeah.
it was unsure of what exactly I wanted. So through talking to her, you know, I eventually was like, you know, I got to do something. You know, I can't do this. You know, this is miserable. I'm absolutely freaking miserable.
Yeah.
Um, and then I stepped into the room of AA the very first time. That changed my life.
Yeah.
Um, and it wasn't the first time, like I said, you know, I did it before.
Sure.
But it was the first time since the last time I've had a drink.
Yeah. Good.
Um,
I like that. Yeah.
and you know, first time I walk in, it's a biker meeting. You know, these are rough and tough people, and, you know, these are boys that, you know, I've kind of grown up with, and I saw, you know, I'm not scared, but, you know, I'm a scrawny kid and everything
Yeah.
like that.
I
So
get it.
it doesn't really look like I fit in with the crowd. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But, you know, I got a mouth on me. I've definitely calmed down. I think I said fuck, I don't know, maybe a handful of times through this,
Yeah.
you know, session right now. But um, it, they told me in the beginning to sit down, shut up,
Yeah.
and listen. You know, because I had no clue what I was doing. And that rubbed me, the wrong way, because
Very good.
I was like, wait a minute. I was like, my ego here, showed up in this room, 2 months before I even walked into this room.
Don't you know who I am? I
You
have
don't
blessed
know
you
who
with
I
my
am.
presence.
Do you know what streets I used to rant? Do you know the people, you know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about? So it was this power trip, that I'm on, but there were rules that I had to follow,
Yeah.
and I wanted to give it a shot. So, because I'm peeing in a cup, 3 times a week. I'm taking 2 random breathalyzers as well a week, so that's 5 visits, a week that are random, quote unquote. And so I'm being constantly monitored, and because I know ways, I'm criminal. I
Yeah.
know ways of getting that stuff clean. There are ways of getting it clean, and I knew that, but I am not that person. I didn't want to do that. I wanted
Yeah.
to do it right, so I did it right. And things started changing in my life, slowly but surely. I would sit there and I'd reflect on, because in the beginning I had to learn things like acceptance, because my life was about to change and I had to accept everything. I had to stop being the director and the lead actor and the
Yeah.
lights and the camera and everything else. I had to stop doing all that. I had to focus on what I was going to do. So sat down and I got myself a sponsor, because that's what they told me to do.
Yep.
And the guy that I chose didn't even have a year yet, but he'd been in the program for about, I don't know, 5 years or something, if I remember correctly. Forgive me if I, state any misfacts here. But we worked together. We worked the book together. I bullshitted my way through the steps because it was easy for me to do.
Yeah.
Because the guy was smaller than me, and I wasn't afraid of him. And I've been a bullshitter for a long time in my life, so I was able to kind of squeak my way through, because I figured that because my thoughts in the beginning were, if I learned enough of what I could from the program, I'd be able to get that, and I'd be able to be a normal drinker.
Yes. Didn't work
That
did
that's
it?
hilarious. I laugh at that now, because these are my thoughts in the beginning of the program, and they're definitely not those thoughts
And
anymore.
the funny thing is, those thoughts to us are normal.
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
That's
and
normal.
yeah, and exactly, and that's what it was. And then all of a sudden, they told me that I'm gonna have to change everything. I was like, "What do you mean everything?" And I was like, "Playground, playmates, freaking phone numbers if you have to, do what it's going to take." And because I had the opportunity to start from scratch, from fresh.
Yep.
I had already been disconnected from the world for a hot minute at this moment,
Yeah.
because of how badly everything had gotten. Um, it was my opportunity to take that time.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of free time on my hands. So
Yeah.
I divulged myself in AA. I went to 2 meetings a day, Sunday through Sunday, the noon meeting and the 5:30,
Yep.
that I went to. Because that's what I was told for me to do. I was just, a robot in a way. But the thing that appealed to me about AA is that in there, I was understood for the first time. People spoke my language.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they were doing something. They were, doing something called living life, and they were doing it sober. And that was just absolutely amazing to me. And I was like, wait a minute. I was like, how the frick do you guys do this? Are you kidding me right now? This is amazing. So I kind of went, to watch. And, after I hit, once I hit my first year, my first full year, 365 days of sobriety, I was ecstatic. It was such a good meeting. They were so happy for me. They wrapped my chair that I sat in, with like gift wrap, and they brought me presents, and there was a cake, and my ma came to the meeting, and sister did, and brother-in-law, and because they'd all been there to support me through this, journey that I'd been on, because this is what I chose to do. And keep in mind, I've been on probation, so in a way I had a choice, but at the same time I didn't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden probation was coming to an end, and I was getting scared, you know. I was just like, well, wait a minute. I was like, what am I gonna do now? You know, this entire time I've been under the thumb of the law. You know, they've been
Yeah.
watching every step of, you know, move I make right now. So like, this is gonna be me.
Mm-hmm.
And for somebody that, you know, had to admit that they were afraid of that,
Yeah.
was difficult to do. That was a hard freaking pill to
You,
swallow. You know what
you
I
know
mean?
what? I think people can understand that now, though.
Yeah.
Where before, and when we're going through it right now, our days are being disrupted because of the coronavirus. So I think people can
Yeah.
really understand. I get that
Yeah.
because we had to go through. I mean, what do they call it? Where they essentially my time was determined for me all the time, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're not, and that was
Hmm.
pretty scary to be left to my own devices.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely
your ass
agree.
it was.
You know, and just a funny topic since you brought up the coronavirus. You know, it's funny because, you know, I'm chilling here and I'm good, you know, right now.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, you know, this is not the first time I've been locked up. But you know what I mean? At least I could go outside, you know, in the backyard and, you know, have a cigarette whenever I choose to do now. But
This is the difference between county and work release.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I I had a lot of free time on my hand, and you know, so I did a lot of focusing on, you know, the program, and the more I went, you know, the kept better it kept getting, you know.
Sure.
I, you know, got a job and, you know, was working, you know, I was paying bills, you know, it was weird for me to do, because I hadn't done that stuff in the past before. But
Sure.
and then that probation, because the only thing I had to do, I actually had 3 extensions on my probation, because I was too afraid to finish my community service,
Okay.
so that I could finish probation. But I had already
Yeah.
completed everything else. The only thing that was stopping me was my community service.
Okay.
Um, and I had this lady in the meeting talk to me, and she was like, "What are you so afraid of?" I was like, "Well, everything right now. Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
You know, I was like, you know, like this is gonna be me left to my own devices. I know who I am. You know what I mean? I was like, I'm going to now not be under the thumb of the law. Like my
Yeah.
brain's gonna start thinking differently again, and I really hope it doesn't start leaning towards like, hey, it's gonna be start to be okay. Hey,
Yeah.
you know, you're really hurting right now. You know, drink sounds really good right now, or you know what I mean? And she was like, "How much time do you got?" And I was like, "Well, I got, you know, a little over a year and, you know, things like that." Um, she was like, "Well, you made it this far." She was like, "You know, you made it past that 24-hour period." She was like, "And then you made it past
Yep.
72." And then it kept going. She was like, "But then you keep focusing on a day at a time." She was like, "Because I could see that and I hear it, you know, in your shares and everything and seeing the work that you're doing."
Yeah.
Um, she was like, "Don't be afraid. You know, that's where that faith comes in." You know, she was like, "Are you going to trust in your higher power to, you
Yep.
know,
Faith.
help you through this? Or are you going to, you know, just try to do it on your own the entire time?" You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I had to trust, you know, my higher power, you know, because if I was going to do, you know, the steps and say that I did the steps, you know, it was like, I got to have a higher power that I believe in and I trust. I was going to, you know, completely let them guide the way, you know,
Yeah.
through this. So that's what I had to do. So, you know, faith was real strong, you know, during that time. Um, and one of the glorious things that happened to me in that first year, is that I got the opportunity to take care of my 96-year-old grandfather,
Mm.
who I'll give you a short backstory on him, who uh, raised 11 children.
Wow.
Um, he fought in World War II for 2 or so years.
Okay.
Came back here, became a mailman, retired. And faith was very strong in his life.
Okay.
And when I was, you know, getting sober, after I couldn't stay at my aunt's anymore, after they let me off the bracelet, I had to move. So um, I had the opportunity of taking care of my grandfather. You know,
Mm.
so that gave me a place to live if I
Yeah.
did this. So, you know, there was a lot of, you know, cleaning, yard work,
Yeah.
housework, that kind of stuff, showers. And then there was one moment of time of, you know, where I was talking to myself. I was like, I literally did not sign up for this shit. As I am wiping, you know, the backside of my grandfather,
Mm-hmm.
um, I was like, you know, I'm just trying to stay sober here. But then it hit me of,
Yep.
you know, during my time of meditation of where this man, and after everything that he went through in life,
Yep.
um, he needed help.
Yep.
And I was able to help. I was able to be there to help. And
Mm-hmm.
so I kind of understood the program of, you know, one person that needed help helping another person that needed help.
Yep.
And so I went out and I got myself a different sponsor, and my grandfather passed away.
Okay.
And that was on one of the things that, you know, I wrote down that I said was going to take me out, you know, during my sobriety.
Yeah.
It was like, you know, because there was a list. I was like, if these things happen, you know, I
Yeah.
didn't write it down or anything, but, you know,
Sure. Yep.
these
I
things
get it.
happen, you know, I'm definitely, there's no way. But I was able to stay strong through it all, because I watched people go through this before in their life.
Yeah.
And they kept going to meetings. That's what they did when their ass was falling off. They went to a meeting.
Yeah.
And because, you know, I finally became honest with the whole program, I sat down and I really did the steps, and I put pen to paper this time around.
Yep.
And I broke down my inventory in the columns. I mean, you know, like I had pages of
Yeah.
that, you know, that those some of those columns out there, you know, that sex inventory, you know what I mean?
Woo.
It's just
Yep.
like, oh my goodness, are you kidding me right now? You know, but like, cause I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. You know, I
Yeah.
was sober, but I was still freaking miserable.
Yeah.
And I had to figure out why. And in order for me to do out why, I had to sit down and I had to do the steps, and I had to do them to the best of my ability, and how willing I was to do them, and how honest I was to do them. And I was
Exactly.
going to be as honest I was, and I broke down and I did them. And I opened up so much, and then that opened up so many opportunities for me,
Yeah.
because I'm noticing the time, so I know we're getting close. So
Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna kind of, you know, break it down a little bit. But when I hit 2 years,
Uh-huh.
um, I didn't think I'd make it that far, because, you know, I was just like, wait a minute. I was like, this is somebody that had lived their life doing this thing, you know, since
Yeah.
the age of 11, and then all of a sudden I'm 2 years completely sober and clean, you
Huh?
know, and things like that. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. But guess what? I have years of sobriety, and I'm gonna pluralize that bitch, and I'm gonna ride that cloud. You know what I mean? I was like, because that's what I
I
needed to
do.
do to get through at that time. But, you know, I kept going to meetings, and, you know, I lived and breathed AA. I was, you know, passing around coffee at meetings. I was doing, you know, everything that I could. I was volunteering for this. You know, we would go down and we would give, you know, jackets and socks and clothes and stuff to the homeless, you
Yeah.
know, a few times, you know, with groups and that kind of thing. You know what I mean? There was a lot of stuff that I could do to be
Mm.
able to help somebody out, especially when my ass is falling out.
Yep.
And that's such an important message to me, because I needed that kind of help to get me through.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I'm now dealing with this depression and now being medicated
Yep.
and being treated for this stuff, you know, by a professional.
Yeah.
You
The
know what
best
I
way
mean?
is supposed to be
And
doing
it's so you know, and these are things that they're telling me to do, and then I'm learning so much about myself. You know, I'm writing this shit down on the wall, because, you know, I figured out that, you know, if I don't want to be depressed, I gotta love,
that. Yep.
because that's the opposite, you know, of it to me. And so I had to figure out how to love, and so I looked at the 5 languages of love, because that seems to be the knowledge that's out there.
Yep.
And so I looked into it, and I figured out that, you know, my language of love is words of affirmation.
Yeah.
And so in order for me to actually truly love myself, I had to write that shit down,
Yeah.
and I had to start reading it and seeing it and believing it, because that's what's going to encourage me on a daily basis when I'm taking this program day by day by day. That's going to be refreshing, you know, because I forget shit all the time, and, you know, I want to sit there and, you know, in my dirty diaper, as they like to say,
Yeah.
you know, I'm my self-pity and wallow and everything. But, you know, if I'm seeing stuff like that, what the truth is, what I believe the truth is, that is about me, I'm speaking that into my life, and it's going to help me along.
Yeah.
And these are all things that, were taught to me in the program. These are the tools that were shown to me.
Yeah.
Um, and so then I ended up getting to a position of where I had a job as a carny, and I was going around, and it was the funnest thing in the world. I
Bet it
kid you
was,
not.
man.
Because like you're setting up giant trampolines, and
Yeah.
you're launching children up into the air, and giant bouncy castles, and everything's completely safe and things like that. And it was so much fun being out in the sun, traveling all over Colorado. Sometimes we go out of state and that kind of thing. So I was doing that part-time, but I was getting a lot better as far as mental wise, because it was my stinking thinking in the beginning. And once I started fixing that thinking, because it came to a point of time in my sobriety where I wasn't thinking about the drink anymore.
Yeah.
I had to think about, all of a sudden gifts that our sobriety is giving me.
Yep.
So I had to think about what I was going to do with life, because I'm working on living a life that's worth living.
Yeah.
For the first time in my life,
Yeah.
I'm working on a life that's worth living. With the attempted suicides and with the darkness and everything else that it's been going through, um, it's a goal to go for. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly everything that it looks for, or what it looks to or looks like, I should say, but I have a general idea.
Sure.
So I'm going to do certain things that's going to be able to help me through that.
Yeah.
But like it's where was I going with this? When I first started getting sober, all of a sudden I looked different, I felt different.
Yep.
I had to go through God's guidance, acceptance, and it was just, I had the opportunities. All of a sudden I was a person of trust. I
Yeah.
wasn't that person anymore. And I was starting to do the next right thing because that's what I chose to do. So all of a sudden I started having all these opportunities in life because I was sober,
Mm-hmm.
and I was starting to able to go to meetings, and I was able to, do things on time, and I was able to do things that I wasn't able to do before. And then I had this one of my friends who reached out on Facebook, and she was like, "Hey, we need hands at my job. How can is anybody else looking for work?" And because I was only doing this carny thing part time, I was like, "Yeah, I could use another job. I'm gonna really, focus on here because I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to get a place, of my own." Because like this is my goals that I'm trying to set up, and
Yeah.
sobriety and that kind of thing. Because I'm coming from homelessness, and so in order for me to be a responsible adult, I got to work,
Yeah.
and I know what it's like to work hard. I've done it my entire life. It's just how much effort I'm going to actually put into it
Yeah.
depends on the outcome.
Yep.
So you know what I mean. So all of a sudden I got my foot through the door at this place that was called Boo Boo, and it's a restaurant. It's a fast casual poke place.
Okay.
And I had worked at Coors Field for like 9, 10, 12 seasons, something like that, running
Okay.
different things. So I had an idea of what I was doing, but I really didn't know what I was doing at the same time.
Okay.
And the one thing that I didn't mention before is that I've always dealt with an issue called food.
Mm.
And the
Okay.
thing about food is that, it came to me at an early age, and I was able to hide it well, because at, family events and that kind of thing, there'd be a lot of food, and I kind of pick at it. People would see me eat, but then I wouldn't really eat. And I try to keep my weight at a certain way to where people wouldn't notice enough, but then they did notice, but then I was able to blame it on drug use and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, guess what? I'm not using drugs anymore, so I have nothing else to freaking blame the weight loss on.
Yeah.
And I had a beautiful opportunity to all of a sudden face a demon that I've been dealing with since I was a kid, called food.
Uh-huh.
And I figured, I was like, well, maybe if I apply myself to this, and I saw the opportunities that I could have as far as like growing, as far
Sure.
as, different positions throughout the company that I could get.
Sure.
Um, And, because like my first year that I worked there, because I ended up quitting my carny job and I just focused my full time on that. And I stayed completely sober for that. And I was going to meetings every day. And I focused my time on my career.
Okay.
And I got promoted within 3 months that I worked there to key manager.
Wow. Nice.
So that was like absolutely amazing because I'm like, wait a minute. It was like, you guys did do a background check on me, right? You know everything that's going on, right?
You realize I'm totally unreliable. Wait a minute, maybe I'm not.
Yeah, exactly. And then, because all of a sudden I'm sober, I'm this different person. I'm just like, wait a minute. I'm like, this ain't who you are. I
Uh,
was like, but wait, you actually are this person now.
yeah,
You
you
know what
are.
I mean? And then I also, and I'm not sitting here and I'm not tooting my own horn. These are just, I'm saying these are gifts from sobriety.
Certainly.
I also won Employee of the Year,
Wow.
and I hadn't even been there for an entire year. I mean, I was outshining people that had been with that company for 2 or 3 years or something like that. But
Certainly.
a lot of it was because I was freaking sober and I was doing the next right thing and I wanted to
Yeah.
do something. And I was like, holy shit, I got a career that I could actually chance. Are you kidding
Mhm.
me? Management? I could be a manager. Like that's never happened in my entire life, and I could actually have sustainable income because that's what I'm
Mhm.
working for right now. Because everything else that I've done in the past, was selling dope, which is illegal. You
Yeah.
could get in a lot of trouble,
Yeah.
and
Just a
things like
little.
that. You know what I mean? I was like, but I did work for, jobs that I got paid, money and, government taxes and that kind of shit. But now I was actually working on this life that, I wanted to live. And I was dealing with this, and so I shot for the skies, and I went and I went and focused my time to become a manager, and I did, and I learned all the tricks of the trade that I possibly could, and I stayed completely open-minded and honest about things, and I asked questions when I didn't know the answers to things, and and I'm speaking to chefs that have been in this kitchen, in kitchens for 10, 15, 20 years or whatever the case may be, and these
Uh-huh.
guys are teaching me some things that I was just like, oh my gosh, that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what I realized is that the more I dealt with it, the more comfortable became with dealing with
Sure.
food,
Yeah.
because it was more of an understanding and I knew what was actually going into the food that I was eating.
Yeah.
And because of the fact that if you're a chef and you're not tasting your food, you're putting out bad product, which is a lot of people's opinion. And
Okay.
so you got to taste it, you got to taste the stuff. And if I'm not tasting the food, I'm putting out bad product. And I want to be
Yeah.
really good at this. You know what I mean? Because I was like,
Yep.
this is freaking exciting because this is actually something that I might actually be able to do
Yeah.
in
Be
life.
good at it and enjoy.
Because like
Yeah.
I am in my 30s, late 30s. I'm actually 30. I think I'm 38. I might be 39 around there.
Double check with your mom.
Yeah, I don't know. I was born in 81, so whoever wants to do the math on that, my birthday is in October. But I, I'm getting older with my life, and I'm living a life that's wanting to live, and I got to do a career, and so like I'm working towards this, and I'm beginning, every opportunity that I'm given, and then all of a sudden I'm having opportunities of working with, Chef Troy Guard in
Mm-hmm.
kitchens and that kind of stuff, and I'm working, side by side with him, and I'm just like, man, this is freaking crazy. And that one location wasn't working the way that it wanted to, and I completely focused my entire time on that, which a few people know me, they saw me in the beginning, but I did step away from meetings for a minute. Um, and that was only because of the fact that I had to. um, I didn't have to, but I wanted to focus my time on my career, and I really didn't know what I was doing, and I really was stressing out about that. And once you step into a kitchen,
Yeah.
there's a lot that's going on,
Certainly.
and so I was trying to soak up all the knowledge that was possible because now I wanted to focus on what AA gave me,
Yeah.
because I'm staying sober. I was like, but just as long as I kept in contact, with another person that was sober, I kept doing, 10, 11, 12. The only thing that I wasn't doing was go to meetings, and I really missed them.
Yeah.
I really, really did. I'm not gonna lie at all because, I got dark there for a minute, but I was white knuckling it is what they call.
Yes.
And now I've been able to prove myself at work, um, to where now, I'm a I'm considered a chef.
Cool.
Um, and I now cook for people um, on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And the way that my higher power has been able to work with me in food has just been absolutely beautiful. And I thank the rooms. I thank everybody that was there before me, that did everything, because without any of this, none of this would be possible,
Correct.
because life was such a struggle, such a freaking struggle for the longest time. And then all of a sudden, it's not.
Yeah.
And it was because of hard work that I put in. I had to put this work in. I mean, this did not come easy.
Correct.
There were times that I cut myself, and I cut myself cutting an avocado. And
Yeah.
one of the chefs was like, I got to go tell the other chefs that he cut himself on an avocado, because they thought it was the funniest freaking thing in the world, because that's, rookie skills right there. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Exactly.
But I
So
didn't
God
go
give
to
you a hard
culinary
time.
school. I didn't go to culinary school for any of this. So, I was just like, I didn't really know what I was doing, but I did at the same time.
Yeah.
And so I had to be open-minded about all this. And I was able to do that. And now, the gifts of my sobriety is that 2000 plus days later,
Yeah.
it brings me to a time of where we're now dealing with COVID.
Mm.
And it shut everybody down, and it shut everybody um locked down into place. And a lot of people are dealing with depression. There's people that are dying alone during this.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just so much sadness that is going out there in the world. And the one thing that sobriety showed me is that I could actually live life, and not only live life, but live a life worth living.
Yeah.
And I could do it completely sober.
Mm-hmm.
I could do it. I could believe in myself. I could do it because of the hard work. I had to look in the mirror, and it was spoken to me in a meeting one time, and it was asked, it was like, what are you looking at when you look into the mirror? I was like, what do you mean by that? They're like, are you looking at like past yourself,
Yeah.
or are you actually looking at yourself? And the moment that I finally realized that I was looking past myself and I wanted to look at myself was when the healing really began.
Yeah.
And I forgave a lot of people that didn't deserve to be forgiven, but it wasn't for them, it was for myself.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things that are in this program that's just an absolutely gift. And I'm absolutely grateful and blessed to be here, to be able to share everything that I've been through in life
Mm-hmm.
with you guys, to be able to, it just, even if it's just hope for a minute, because
Yep.
sometimes that's all we need is just that minute,
Yep.
but if we make it through that minute and keep going, the day turns into 24 hours,
Yeah.
and
And
it
then we
turns
get
into
to
48 after that.
show other people how to survive that minute,
Yeah,
pass on
exactly.
our hope.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
thank you, Josh. That is a hard story to tell, and I appreciate you having the
I
courage.
really appreciate that, man.
It's not easy for everybody to talk about, their past and things that have gone on. So I have a lot of people, I find people that come on and share their time with me have a lot of courage. And
Yeah.
that courage comes from God, you
I
know.
agree.
And I really like your story because it kind of, you know, you showed you could be down in the dumps, you could eat with kings. But until the program stops being a me program and becomes a we program, it ain't gonna work.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah, absolutely.
that's what I got out of that. The moment, I mean, the absolute moment you decided to make a change, it happened.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how AA and God works.
Mm-hmm.
So fantastic. Thank you very much for being on here. When this is all said and done, we'll find out where you're working so we can come you can come make me food.
Yeah, it'd be my pleasure, to be honest with you.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you everybody for being here, being a part of. If you'd like to tell your story, please reach on out to me. Today we have had Josh from Thornton, Colorado on. Um, thank you again, everybody, for being here. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. I love you all. Peace out and have a day.